It's so simple. Reconnection, healing, you. Without brain damage from materialism cults, it's all so simple and I never would have believed it. Your life just seems so disjointed and difficult and pointless. I felt the same way. I was so desperate that I had no idea what all this effort was about. People seem so broken to me. They go to work for a little vacation and they get sicker and older. As a teenager, I definitely didn't want to be like my parents. My mother worked herself to death, and I had the feeling that life is much more valuable than selling yourself. And I just kept asking about the meaning of it all. I looked into religion. I was a super devout Baptist for 7 years and confessed my sins to God every night. I was the most exemplary Baptist there was, until I realized that I didn't want to be like these people. I couldn't get rid of my depression at all. I began to hate this God who always blames me. I was even more depressed, but the people I met there were still very, very unkind to me. And at some point, when you don't understand the error in this whole system, you end up blaming yourself and then you're full of pain, or you're ashamed that you somehow still haven't discovered the error. You look for him with you. It's in religion, in psychology, in what you're taught about humanity. It's a huge mistake. You may have been going to your religious provider for years, decades, a bit like a fitness center, and you pay your fees like a fitness center in the hope that you will become slimmer and more muscular, and you will notice that your religious muscle is also becoming more and more flabby, and your religious brain too, it gets bloated with thoughts. Your shelf is always full of books, and then you think I'm just too stupid. Religion is not for me. Also, religion can be that simple. I'll let the cat out of the bag now. That's what matters to me, that the entire system that surrounds you here, as the spirit of the times, is saturated with heresy. This materialism is like a false religion. That's the mistake. But you believe it because the teachers at school are materialistic. Materialism continues at university. Hardly anyone, talk show or news anchor, will tell you anything about psi phenomena, that they have long been scientifically proven, and that materialism has long been refuted. And so that you don't think I'm some new sectarian or weirdo, just read the books that I linked under the video. Russell Targ Psi. This was government-funded PSI research in the USA. He was an engineer for laser physics for wind shear. He worked at Stanford University, Stanford Research Institute. Is this an esoteric university? At some point I came across this path to find the error. It is already being put into your intellect. But all the research is there and has long since refuted materialism. Read Russell Targ Psi about what is possible in scientifically verified experiments. His successor is Dean Radin, for example. The book Real Magic can also be found linked under the video. Lease Diane Hennessy Paul. I also linked it to the video. Diane Hennessy Paul with the stupid book title Mobius Consciousness, because the clinical psychologist, who I think also gave lectures at Harvard. What happened was that a patient came to her, and the patient told the psychologist everything about the psychologist's life, every detail. And an honest scientist is honest enough to say, hey, this isn't a coincidence, but has a level of communication that would be very useful for psychologists. So instead of listing it all for you now, I'll shorten it to the fact that materialism has long since been scientifically refuted in university experiments. When I wanted to know where the error was, I literally ate through all this literature and afterwards. But I was really angry because even religion, which is offered to you, has almost no passage. And of course I took note of such books beforehand. They are not able to correctly teach you texts about Jesus, for example, because the point is that you should be able to do the same thing as him. You shouldn't constantly feel guilty and ashamed and whatever else is made of it. That makes you even smaller. So everything, that's my rule of thumb for you. Anything that makes you small, physical, heavy, tight, burdened, that you should do even more, let it go. You deepen the mistake. and especially traumatized people. What are they doing? When something is difficult, they first doubt themselves and increase their willingness to perform. They think I'm the mistake. I am too stupid. I'm too small. I have to give up. When religion is understood, it is simple. The gist is that you can, for example, write a song like, "How should I receive you?" You can simply rewrite it. How should I receive myself? How do I meet myself? It finally brings you from the outside into your inner world and clears it up. And everything that appears to be in such texts about natural phenomena is of course real. Materialism is heresy. I know that many of you are now naturally so educated, from Meister Eckhart's point of view too. You are simply ignorant. Your brain is distorted. You can't think of anything else. Be good citizens. No one will laugh at you, because you behave exactly the same way, so that no one laughs at you. But is that your goal in life? Don't you want to develop beyond that? If you simply do certain exercises, then you notice everything is right. So you can concentrate on someone or an animal. And the information channel is simply there. You start exchanging ideas. You can concentrate on any place on earth. And you feel how that feels. Ultimately, everything here is a huge matrix. And you and your thoughts naturally create a lot of shapes that are not useful for you, because you never learn to control your own consciousness. So most of them are mental bedwetters. They're constantly mentally defecating. You are incontinent. They don't realize what they are thinking and that they are smearing it on themselves. And then they claim that life is bad. So if a religion doesn't begin to teach you that the key lies within you, that you learn to transform your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions into something that serves you, instead of something going on uncontrollably, then you can't get any further than that. And the monk Paisios, an Orthodox monk who died in 1994, once said, when asked, "Hey, how do you explain the supernatural?" He gave the most accurate answer, and it resonated with me when I read it. The supernatural is not the supernatural, but it is the normal. But you in the West have only learned to declare the sick as normal, and you no longer ask anything beyond that. That's the mistake. But what are you saying something like, when her pain is taken away from your heart, then you all become transparent to each other again? My comment is, we are created transparently for each other. So if you have understood how religion actually works, what it is there for, not to burden you even more, with more morals about me, with even more morals and about me, you will never come into being. But the only moral is, stop producing what harms you, develop empathy and clarity, then the rest will increasingly become a path of love and clarity for you. But that is not a moral approach. It's all so easy when you finally become you, including the whole area of relationships. I was able to do that as a child, and of course my near-death experience increased everything. But for me it was absolute horror, so to speak, to see, to feel that almost all people lie, and almost all relationships are based on illusions, on fantasies. And that, above all, people lie to themselves, that they are torn apart by conflicts. I felt somewhere and knew what are the basic feelings of a human being. Because did I see how they talk? Unfortunately, I didn't realize what small talk was for. So why do they need small talk? Because I look at a person open-heartedly, and yet I know what they fundamentally feel, what they feel now. And I didn't understand why people treat each other so cruelly. So you see, if you just have your original abilities, materialism will always say they don't exist. Or that's just something rare. Religion also claims that mysticism is just a special gift of grace, something rare. As if am I an alien from another planet, or what? No. Read Abraham Maslow, every person is a mystic. So in short, When you get back in order, and when they finally teach you who you are and what communication actually is, then life will be wonderful for you. You just lack the know-how and the operating instructions. Unfortunately, also for yourself and therefore for life. Religion would be there for that, or spirituality would be there to hand it over to you as quickly as possible. And it's a lie to say that mysticism is only for exceptional talents. I sat for a long time to discover these errors, and of course tried out the quickest possible methods to sort out the rest. Greening is, you are such a valuable being. It hurts me so much when people walk around full of pain and lack of energy, doubting themselves and doubting life and considering themselves a failure when they are already really worn out and weak because it is unnecessary suffering. You are not a materialistic being. The most important thing in your life is your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and that you learn the distinctions as quickly as possible. What is your conditioned self? So that's what I'm saying instead of false self. And what is your true self? Your inner light. Please don't do anything that obscures your inner light. And please don't do anything that strengthens your conditioned self. And so for super educated people, they are, of course, so proud of their conditioned selves. They are sometimes hostile towards everything that has to do with money. Yes, I don't need it, but they always just collect more brownie points for their conditioned self. And when Jesus says, "Yes, dear, it gets easier," what was that like? A camel must go through the eye of a needler rather than a rich man enter the kingdom of heaven. I say that it will be easier for someone with severe mental disorders to enter the kingdom of heaven than for one of those who are proud of their conditioned self. Because those who really suffer start to ask real questions. And the thing that I used to almost curse that I didn't want to live anymore was that I had a beautifully conditioned self, but I suffered like a dog. I was really haunted by nightmares of my war-traumatized parents and so shaken by depression and panic attacks. Because unfortunately they were also very threatening people that I was essentially a double creature for a long time. Super high performance conditioned, but so full of pain that I really understood this saying that those who suffer are blessed. You get the kingdom of God. But of course I found the detonator. Yes, it would be glorified as suffering, but I'll tell you one thing. I now understand the saying to mean that if you're full of pain, pain keeps you awake. It makes you so awake as if you were sitting on a thumbtack. You don't have a moment of rest until you have the solution. And that was my main motive to research, to ask questions. The shocking truth in the end for me is that it's all so simple. Religion is so easy. If you throw materialism out of your religion provider and simply, most of the time, would you have ordered a washing machine? Look, first of all, what kind of product did you buy? What did he promise to deliver to you after that? And when did that deliver? And are you satisfied with the quality of the product delivered when it is delivered? Please don't fall for it if he says you're not worthy. It'll just take another 10 or 20 years. The truth is simple as life. And with relationships, if you've been doing therapy for a long time, like me, to get rid of this long-term trauma, the shock was, it's so simple, but I was with a psychoanalyst, among other things. And the funniest session. Okay, unfortunately I have every session for that too, paid, but I wanted to convince her that PSI works. And what did I do? First of all, I didn't understand that I should tell her everything I felt, because I thought, hey, you're the professional, and I also feel what you feel. Why should I use words for this? Yes, because when you are back on track in the web of life, the basis of all communication is without words, wordless understanding. We humans are truly telepathic beings. This isn't nonsense. If you're still a Star Trek freak, check out Counselor Troy. I used to be a Trekkie and always wished I could do what Spock could do. And I thought Counselor Troy was cool too. I found the others a bit primitive. Well, I didn't realize that I could actually do that. But I was so full of pain that I didn't notice it at the time. So, for me, the basic mistake was during the therapy period. Even with the best ones, I think they are in the direction of hypnosystemic, according to Milton Erickson. But even the best people I've spoken to have, in my opinion, a mistake. They want people back only within the framework of materialism therapies, instead of just continuing to ask and seeing that materialism is the greatest hypnosis. There are also mass hypnotists. You look at them in the Middle Ages and they all believed in purgatory. And their near-death experiences were corresponding. They were so hypnotized that even in their near-death experiences, they only ever saw devils, demons, and slimy flames, and stinking sulfur pools. These are cultural hypnotics. They take them with them to the afterlife. What are people looking for today? They are always hypnotized. They need to have a learning experience. Even the afterlife is fully educated. Doesn't anyone have any distance? These are just hypnosis. They are just stories. In short, only therapy that has a transpersonal approach will really help you, and that has left this strange, conspiratorial, secretive, bourgeois, mutilating view of humanity behind it. I have nothing against that, but as long as you live for it and allow materialism to go unchallenged out of Golden Calves, you won't move forward. And the therapy that will help you fastest is the one that connects you with your true self. This is the greatest therapeutic resource. Renaud von Quelkeberg, or however you pronounce this probably Belgian name, a clinical psychologist, was a professor at the University of Koblenz-Lanau, Bundeswehr University, so he wasn't a crazy person either. And he wrote a book, Basics of Spiritual Psychotherapy, and another, Transpersonal Psychology. He understood it. I also linked it under the video. So the book, Fundamentals of Spiritual Psychotherapy. What does he notice? The people who have a unity experience? Yes, they are suddenly trauma-free. And of course he also demands that spiritual crises are not viewed as psychotic disorders, but as a developmental crisis, that people are now moving from a materialistic world into the real world. So the relationships are healed much more easily if you make them clear. It conditions itself. Society will only ever create conflicts, dramas, and crises, and it is designed so that happiness is supposedly always only on the outside. You have to achieve something. But it won't make it clear to you that you are lucky when you become soot within yourself, when you have found your inner light, and when your true, unconditioned self is the source for you and becomes pure above, then everything else is given to you. You are transparent to yourself, others are transparent to you, and religion is also used to you through yourself. Suddenly everything is right again, because you realize that it's not about the otherworldly God or who will come back at some point on clouds from heaven or something like that. Everything is already there. I thought that was great. Michael von Bruck, religious scientist at the University of Munich, who once wrote an essay in a book. Several essays with the title, What is Time? And from then on I understood what Christianity was, because it differentiates. Yes, these are always such oaths that are sold to you in religion. He simply used utopia research as a framework for understanding. Religion is about the fact that God lives in another place, let's say, on an undiscovered island, on an undiscovered continent, for example, or that the island of the blessed. So you say, hey, unless I've been to the Bermuda Triangle, I wouldn't have found God because he might live in the Bermuda Triangle. So this is the local utopia. You would say that's nonsense. But utopia is just as nonsense. When you see progress, we will all have heaven here on earth. Well, that's what almost all politicians and stuff like that sell here. Such a good seller. But religion also sells soap. some of which is religious soap operas. There is really only this now. The rest are stories. You can also buy a storybook there. So, because the utopia of progress has been bought into many people's minds through the education system, everyone believes in such a spiral of happiness and salvation that everything will get better in the future. What does the spiral do to you? It takes you out of the here and now. You believe in a story, and you stick a carrot in front of your nose, and at some point you notice that things are tiring. Well, I have now survived the communist utopia as a GDR citizen really well. I can also survive dystopias, help in the future. The devil is waiting for you. Stop believing stories. It's about story sellers. It's about Michael von Brook. I found that super insightful, he says simply, and there is a utopia of consciousness. This means that when you finally establish certain clarity in your listening, everything becomes easy. The error is in hearing. As long as you're in the about... that's my comment now. I'll continue to process his approach. As long as you're in survival mode, you feel like you're being hunted and everything seems full of danger, and you just want to find some place to escape, emigrate to another time, another place, or you think you have to get better, then they'll stop criticizing you. No. So, you just sit there, let the smoke clear away, and just see what is here and now, what you feel, what belonging to this cultural level has done to you. I'll say it again from the start. There is and never has been anything wrong with you, so you can do that. Just place your right hand on your heart area. Nobody can hear you sitting here watching the video, and say the sentence out loud 3 times with your hand on your heart. I don't need to get better. There's nothing wrong with me. There was never anything wrong with me. I don't need to get better. And from then on, don't fall for any system that says you're the mistake. Again, dear Depriest, and especially those who have been traumatized, that is your weak point. You always fall for it. You think you will be loved and belong when you get better. My spiritual approach says, stop giving shit about me, all overtime and over-teaching. It's all simple. And from now on, live with the main question. How can I be an all-round happy person in a playful and easy way? Despise anything too complex or fuzzy. Let the stories be. Especially leave stories and identities where you do poorly. You're so bad, you have to get better. It's always your fault. But the utopia is built within you. Every person is a mystic. You're basically the wizard who lives under the stairs with the muggles. Don't fight them. They don't know any better. Your ultimate goal is to belong to a certain social class. For example, to share bourgeois values, or we are all dropouts, or something like that. God is in you. As soon as you would perhaps rewrite the songs, How Should I Receive You? And How Do I Meet You for yourself? You can continue singing How Should I Receive Myself? And How Do I Meet Myself? Pass the torch to me, that's okay, but higher on doing things that harm you, that are too complicated. The main flaw is all systems. Religion is saturated with the heresy of materialism. Look like a cult. Don't drink their poison lemonade anymore. The relationship models, and unfortunately also healing approaches in therapy, never take you beyond this, let's say, devilish guardian of materialism or whatever. From then on, the materialist sector says, we exclude you from our academic affiliation, or yes, you are a weirdo, or you are a psychiatric patient. Yes, that's just how it is with mystics today. And therapies would be so easy if, as the shortest approach, they increasingly free people from the condition themselves as quickly as possible and connect them with the delusion itself. And it becomes even easier with yourself when you no longer doubt yourself, that everything seems so pointless and exhausting to you. Yes, of course, from a materialistic perspective, everything is separated from each other, chaotic, nothing is connected properly, you have to develop extra systems for security and so on. No. You are actually an energetic being. You are a miracle worker. You can actually, as an innate gift, animal communication and everything that is within you, these are not the evil witches who can only do that. You are a data being, and this reality here is like the holodeck on Starship Enterprise. This is actually a gigantic 3D hologram, and inside you is the remote control. If possible, only choose providers who show you as quickly as possible how you can get your life back into your hands as quickly as possible for yourself, for your relationship, and for the context of your life. And don't let someone else control you for too long. Thank you for giving me your time. And all the literature is finally properly linked here under the video.